Okay, so we've got another amazing episode. I've got Rap Stevenson, former lead singer, a singer with the group 911. He is a vocal coach. He's tours with Justin Timberlake, so it's going to be great bringing him on board. And I hope you enjoy it with me.
All right,
Okay.
so my name is Robert Stevenson. People know me as Rob or RAab or RAab. We actually, how the name came about was from the guys that were managing me, Louis Bell and Barry Myers, or Barry Dufay, as we call him. And they were the owners of Rip It Records, which wasn't a record company until they signed me. And from what I hear, and once again, I was really young, but listening to other people, share their own personal stories within the label, once they were shopping me as an artist, they came back and said, "Hey, we can do this independently," and that's how they became Rip It Records.
Okay.
Lewis was an avid golfer. He golfed in college, and if you look at the logo, it's a guy hitting a golf club, and he was also the grandson of Jack the Rapper, which started Jack the Rapper Music Convention. He was the first African American VJ out of Chicago,
Oh,
and his offices that ran Jack the Rapper, magazine and Jack the Rapper Music Convention was based out of Orlando, Florida, in a small house off of Colonial. I believe it's West Colonial Road. And everybody that was wanting to be a part of the music industry or get discovered in the industry, from whether that be Jermaine Dupri, whether that be Diddy launching his label, everybody went to Jack the Rapper Music Convention, which was normally held in August during the summer. And it was a big thing here in Atlanta. So a lot of groups got their break or winded up signing their deals at Jack the Rapper Music Convention.
okay.
Um, how did I get started? I'm from a family that sings. I did not want to sing as a kid because I didn't think I could.
But where exactly are you from though? Are you?
Orlando, Florida.
Oh, you're from Orlando. Okay,
I'm from
okay.
Orlando, Florida. Yeah, at home of Disney World, Sea
Yeah,
World, all of Universal Studios, tourist capital of the world, believe it or not. Yeah,
yeah.
but that's where I'm from, born and raised. And as a kid, my mother sang with the Florida Mass Choir. My sister sang and played the drums for the Florida Mass Choir.
Wow.
And we were really a family that was really heavily involved in church. I know you've heard stories where if you were Kojic, Church of God in Christ,
Yeah.
there were certain things that you couldn't do. Women couldn't wear makeup. Women couldn't wear skirts that were higher than the knees, or even
Wow.
with the knees, that had to be low. Couldn't go to movie theaters, couldn't go to clubs, couldn't play anything other than gospel music. If it didn't have God or Jesus or talking about angels or anything talking about the church or the Christian faith, you were considered secular, and I would get whippings or beats
Wow.
if I played anything in my mother's house, which didn't stop me, by the way. I was
Okay.
a fan of music as a kid,
What were
and
you
the first
listening to then?
everything. Everything as a child, and think about it. I grew up in the projects in the hood. Yeah, I grew up in on Orange Center, and in some projects over there, and then we moved over to Mercy Drive. Yeah, which was the Palms, and it was really crazy over there. I mean, like shootouts all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty rough over there, and still is. And I drive through there. I drive through there pretty fast. But
Wow.
showing my family like this is where I was raised, especially my kids, like this is where I grew up at. And it was pretty scary. But as a child, you just thought the whole world
Was
was
like
like
that.
that. So
Yeah.
until I got into middle school, and then I started visiting some of my friends that were black, that didn't live in the hood, and I was like, "What do you mean you don't live in the hood? What hood you repping?" You know what I'm saying? It was like, "No, we live in this particular community over here," and I'm like, "What? Are you kidding me?" And that's basically my escape, from that type of mentality or staying in the hood. I respect the hood. I respect the hustle. A
Yeah.
lot of the guys taught me a lot about, hustling and hard work in the hood that I grew up with and
But
around.
but are you
So,
saying that by going to middle school and seeing people who were like you but didn't live in the same lifestyle
yeah, oh
gave
yeah,
you a sense that there should be more than what
that's
I'm seeing?
Absolutely. There should be more. They lived in nice neighborhoods, middle class families that were making really good, parents making pretty good money. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I remember my first person I stayed the night over at a friend's house. Actually, I didn't stay the night over there because my mom wouldn't allow us to do that. So I got mad at my mom, for good reason, because my mom was really, really strict. She didn't, like I said, she didn't let us play, any other music besides that. And at that time, we talk about the 80s, where my favorite type of music happened in the 80s. I listened to rock. I listened to, it was the evolution of hip hop that was coming on.
Yeah.
I was a part of a rap crew in middle school. I was beatboxing
Okay.
and singing hooks and stuff like that. And my crew was pretty crazy at that time. So we were kind of beating everybody. We had this guy named Dre. We had a guy named Priest Baker, and then this guy named Fred Freeman, who we called Double F Class Key. That was his name. It was so funny. But that was the evolution of hip hop. That was coming up,
Yeah.
and I couldn't take any of that back home, so I had to secretly listen to it. And my aunts stayed in the same projects with us, and they were the total opposite of my mom. My mom was all church. We had church all day on Sunday. We had Bible study on Wednesday night, Friday night service, and then Saturday choir rehearsal. So it was a full routine schedule all the time. And anytime my mom would ask me to go over to my Aunt Deborah's house or apartment to borrow some sugar or some eggs, I would run over there. And I would run over there as soon as she let me in. I was like, please, Aunt Deb, just take your time. And I would go through her album collection and look at all the covers from the SOS band, the Gap band,
The Gap band,
Parliament Funkadelics. And my introduction to Michael Jackson's Thriller album, with him laying on the cover with the tiger and everything. I got to sneak and listen to some of that stuff. And when my mom found out, I would get whooped.
Oh goodness!
I would get beat. Yeah, she called it the devil music, and that's how she felt.
But then at this time, though, where you said you went into the singing, you were more.
I was not into singing, and my mom sang, my brother sang, my sisters sang, and normally we would be driving home from church or somewhere, and everybody would always go shotgun, in order to get sitting in the front of the car. Yeah, everybody knows that. But if I got shotgun, regardless if I was the eldest or not, I got to beat the drums, beat on the dashboard, and make beats while they would sing songs in the car, just like that. Because a lot of times the radio didn't work. Mama didn't have a car that had an 8-track that worked. What I'm saying?
8-track, yeah.
Yeah, right. So I would sit there and I would be, beating the drums and then beating on the dashboard, and everybody would be singing in the car. We having a good time. And then one day my mom asked me to sing a song, and I knew I was totally embarrassed to sing anything, And my mom, you let her tell it if she was living, you let her tell it that she put me on program at like 4 or 5 years old, and I sang this song called "Do Lord, oh do Lord, don't you remember me?" Something like that, which was really cool. And I don't remember any of that. You know what I'm saying? So at this point in the car, my mom was like, "Okay, it's your turn to sing, Junior." And I act like I didn't hear my mom. That's the worst thing you would want to do with my mom. She should only ask you to do something once. And if you don't respond, she's gonna hit you. It's just simple as that.
Wow.
She don't care where you are. She's gonna knock the air out of your lungs. Simple as that. I'm in the front seat, so I'm within range.
Yeah.
Actually, in her car, she can hit you here, she can hit you here, she can even hit you behind the back. So she didn't care. If she had something, she'll hit you with that. It was just a respect thing. And so at this point, I'm acting like I don't hear her. And she said, "Sing something." And my mom said it twice. And before I can say anything, she hit me in the chest, and I'm crying and beating on the dashboard.
Wow.
I was like, "Mama, you gonna say I sound like a frog?" Now, mind you, I'm crying at the same time and trying to talk to her. So imagine what that's like, with the air being hit out of my lungs at this point. And so she says, "All right, sing whatever, blah, 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 blah." And I go to sing a song. She said, "Ooh, baby, you sound like a frog." And now, of course, here's my confidence. I'm like, "I knew it. Thank you for validating that, Mama." And so it was something different about how she said that. She saw or heard something in me that I didn't recognize in my own self. And that following week, I was in choir rehearsal with everybody else, the Sunshine Band at Malone Memorial Institutional Church of God in Christ, where our bishop was Bishop M.L. Scanias. So I'm in the choir singing in the church. And then next thing you know, the choir director, Mother Margaret Hester, and she had a daughter named Lawan. No. Margaret Hester and Lawan Eason. Her mother was Mother Eason, who directed the Sunshine Band choir, and then basically they started asking me to sing, leads in the programs and stuff like that. And then next thing you know, I would come to church and they would give me a Walkman and tell me to go in the back and study a song. And before the song of preparation, they would have me come out and sing the song for the song of preparation at church.
Wow.
That quickly. So I would only have about 30 minutes to maybe an hour to try and learn a song before service. And I just pull it off just like that. So my mom she heard something in me that I didn't even recognize in my own self. So,
but then at this time, were you thinking that with music you could become one of the people on the albums, or did you just think, what was it for you? What was
not
this?
At all. It didn't happen until I was in. It didn't happen until I was in middle school. When I was in middle school, I noticed that my friends, and my brother, they were making an impact, with singing these songs or singing songs at church, and you know what I'm saying? And I saw how it was making people feel. Not that I was trying to be a star. I just saw how much joy music brought people. Even in the hood at nighttime, the guys that would be hanging outside, selling drugs or doing whatever, they weren't hanging out playing on the playground. You know what I'm saying? They were out doing their thing. But even then, it was all music based. We stayed our apartment faced the park, inside the projects where everybody hung out at. They either played and then they were battling each other, break dancing and doing all kinds of stuff. There was a guy named Greg, who was probably the dopest pop locker in on the whole drive, Mercy Drive. Yeah. And so it was we were always surrounded by music. And that was my bedroom, me and my brother's bedroom faced that park every day. So I got to hear all types of music, and I loved it. And our neighbor downstairs, Rodney, he was a DJ. So he would DJ at the AM station. So our bedroom was right above his bedroom. So I would put my head to the floor and listen to all the records he would be spinning. And so I couldn't escape it. I loved music.
Yeah.
But at this time, it was just something beautiful about it. You know what I mean? So I knew I had to sing gospel in my mom's home. But when I went to school, you had a choice to choose an elective by a certain time. And if not, they were going to put you in an elective, meaning like band, chorus, art or whatever. And they put me in the band, and there were no more drums left. You know what I'm saying? So they put me in the position to play trombone. I hated playing trombone. Yeah. And my mom could not afford to pay for the instruments either. You know what I'm saying? So, but I knew being in choir, I wanted to be in choir at that point in middle school, And so I talked to my mom to convince them to let me out of band and put me in chorus. And my selling factor was like, the instruments, they don't have any more instruments, which they didn't. And mama had to rent the instrument.
Okay.
To rent a trombone, it was going to cost you a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? And so my mom said, baby, that's an easy fix. I'm putting you in choir. Done. And I think her name was Miss Garrett, the chorus teacher in middle school, if I remember correctly. But she was amazing. She would get there early, and any student that was into music was allowed to come to the class early and jam out. And then me and some friends would get there early, jam out, sing some songs. And at that time, New Edition was popping.
So was it Mr. Telephone Man, Candy Girl, or which one?
It was before Mr. It was before Mr. Telephone Man. We're talking about Is This the End?
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah.
There's a jealous girl in that town. All of that. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? All those like Candy Girl.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
those moments.
Oh goodness,
You
I
know what I'm
remember
saying?
those.
So
Yeah, yeah.
I was in love with New Edition, and I always felt like if anybody got kicked out the group, I wanted to audition to be in New Edition. And I still feel that way to this day, which
Yeah,
is
oh
weird.
yeah, I'm sure.
That won't happen. But that was always my dream. And anytime I could sneak and watch their music videos, I always studied how their dancing, their work ethic, I
Mm,
forget the guy's name, it just slipped my mind. The one that was always over them rehearsing and putting the group together. I always thought he was amazing. And I always carried that same motto, just keep working, keep practicing, 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 practicing until you
mm.
get it right. You know what I'm saying? So by
Yeah.
me being surrounded by all this music, my mom was, like I said, she was very musical, but she only listened to gospel music. You know,
Okay.
if she listened to Aretha Franklin, it was gospel Aretha Franklin. Mahalia
Okay.
Jackson, gospel Mahalia Jackson. James Cleveland, gospel, 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 gospel. When I got chastised or whooped with a belt, it was to Sandra Crouch, Walter Hawkins, any of that stuff, or the Color Purple soundtrack. That's what it was, Namdi. That's
Oh
exactly what
goodness.
it was. And I couldn't escape it. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, Mama, she would always go to this place called Rena Center and get the best speaker system or stereo
Wow.
system. Like the speakers would be really tall, 18-inch speakers, you
My
know what I'm
goodness.
saying? My mom was really dope. But when Mama went home and she was working late shifts, you know what I would play through that system? Because bass music in the state of Florida was a huge thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
Luke Skywalker, the Ghetto Boys, all of them, they had bass in their music. So
Not
I,
Luke, not Two Life Crew look.
yes, Love Crew, and one of his dancers named Cindy, who I had the biggest crush on. Her
Goodness.
cousin lived in the hood, and she would come and visit from time to time, and all the guys would go, Cindy, come on. And I would put the system up on high school, it's in the park, and I'll play, hey, we want to party. And it wasn't party. It was, hey, we want some
Yeah,
J,
yeah, 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 yeah.
hey. And then there was throw that, throw that, throw that, throw that, throw that. Yeah, I don't say those words,
Yeah.
but I was bumping it in the system. It was based. It was based. Then Run DMC was hot and
Okay.
popping, and then Beastie Boys was popping, and I would play that stuff. And then one day, Mama came home early from work, and I was jamming. I had it pumped up so loud, I didn't hear my mother walk through the door. She saw me. She just immediately went to beating the fire out of me. But before she did, my friends downstairs that was partying in the park, they was like, yo, mama is right there. And she saw me. I looked back and she was literally right there and just went to swinging. Pop, pop, pop.
Wow, goodness.
And it didn't stop there. I still kept doing it. I just love music, all types. It could have been White Snake. It could have been anything, Guns N' Roses, anything. I just loved it all
But
as a
then how
child.
did you then take that then passion and love and it's strange because you in one stage you are almost rebelling against the household institution,
I
but
was,
the passion was so much. How did you then sort of after sort of middle school, high school, how did you then did you then decide I need to
well,
get a career in this, or what were you
well,
thinking?
well, in middle school, it's crazy. Can you hear me clearly? If not, I
Yeah,
can put my
yeah,
earpiece in.
yeah.
Yeah. In middle school, it was pretty crazy because not middle school, but when I got to high school, I was competing in gymnastics. I played football my freshman year, didn't play football my sophomore year, but I still did gymnastics. And then junior year, gymnastics, senior year, no gymnastics, but I played football again. But the whole time I was involved in music, the whole time we had the teacher once we got to high school was a guy named Dr. David Martin. Dr. David Martin, he was so kind to where he allowed us to use the school's equipment to put on these shows during pep rallies at school.
Hmm.
So if the football team, and our football team was pretty much a juggernaut, Evans High School. We were called the Trojans. So we were like some really big boys, and we were pretty much kicking butt, everybody's butt in the whole Central Florida area, in football. And so the pep rallies were huge, and the principal would allow me to get some guys together and do a performance during the pep rally. And we would always do the hottest performances. Me, a guy named Quint Jenkins, and some other guys. I remember us doing Bobby Brown's "My Prerogative." We did the dance. We were like stars in high school, and so everybody knew that we were gonna do something. And when it got to my senior year, I had left home with my mom because it was too much. She was just so strict, and I was becoming a young man at that point. I was smelling my own self, as you would say. Puberty was setting in, and my mom, she was when I say very strict person, she was extremely strict. And I'm grateful for a lot of that, because I could have easily gotten caught up in selling drugs and doing all of that. And I knew that those were big no's in my mother household. I wasn't about to do that. Even when my friend Anthony, who was really big in that world and used to dress really nice. And I used to always ask Aunt, that's what we call him, Aunt. And I was like, man, how are you dressing so nice? Blah, 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 all the time. And he would always shush me off like, yo, you're not about that life. You need to stay away from us. And they would threaten to beat me up.
If
and
you
what I
tried
did,
to.
if I wanted to hang with them. And what I didn't know, and I still don't know for sure to this day, but I do know that my mom, she used to do prison ministry. She used to go and speak in and bring goodies to like the women in prison or in jail, and do Bible study with them, the men and women. And I think my mom had something going on that we never knew about, which protected me, my brother, my younger sister from any of that, being persuaded to come in and either be a part of a gang or that's the only thing I can think of, because they never tried to recruit me or do anything like that, or get me to go and take this bag over here. They never ever did that with me. And I'm grateful for that. But with that being said, with Aunt, they, like I said, they would threaten to beat me up if I tried to hang out with them, but we just never did. You know what I'm saying? So I forgot the question. I just lost my train of thought.
No, I was just wondering about how you moved on from you moved out from your mom's place, and then you started to really,
Yeah. So I was grateful for that side of things, but my mom, the beating, it was just getting worse for no reason. Like and it was always because I felt like she had problems with my father, and I looked just like him, and even in her being upset, she would always blame it on my dad. It's your dad's fault. And they had been divorced for years. They married twice, almost a third time. But when she would be beating on me, she would always bring up the stuff about my dad.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, my dad beat on her. And to this day, I don't like that when men hit women. Or when women hit on men, you know what I'm saying? There's other ways to resolve that. So I left home at an early age, and the girl I was dating, this girl I was dating in high school, who was 3 years older than me, she was having problems with her uncle, trying to hit on her. And then her auntie went back to the islands. And instead of her going to the islands, we went on and got a place together. She was 18 and I was 15. So we put each other through high school.
Wow.
Yeah, at that age. And so I had my own place with her, and during that time we had a child named we had our first child together while I was a senior in high school.
Wow.
And still finished high school, and she finished high school as well. But at that time, I knew I had to make some decisions as far as my career, or if I was going to do this music thing, or if I was going to go to school on a music scholarship and go sing somewhere. I knew gymnastics was out of the option, as far as trying to make a career as a gymnast. And now, mind you, I was a really good gymnast in the eyes of a lot of colleges, because I didn't even go and get trained professionally. I just watched it on TV and went outside and did it.
Yeah.
No fear. I just Did it. Yeah. You doing double back? No, I just watch it on TV, timing 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, bam. There you go. Once I got into high school, they had just started a gymnastics program. And so with the coach there, she had a women's team, but didn't have a male's team. So we was the first team to start that. And I went and talked to all my friends in all the hoods where we used to have our own street battling gymnastics competitions and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And convinced them to talk to their athletic directors to start a men's program. And we did it. We got it together. We competed. Oak Ridge had a team. Dr. Phillips High School had a team. And my school had a team. And some other schools like Lake Brantley, they studied at Brown's gymnastics school where they was competing professionally. And we competed against them, and we were kicking everybody's butt pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Some street tumblers. So from there in high school, still going back to school, I was doing these pep rallies. Dr. Martin was letting us use this equipment. And so we were getting ready for one performance, and I was outside in front of my apartment, tried to get some guys together so we could do a performance at school. And I knew only one of the other guys could sing a little bit. And the other two guys, they were just trying to get girls. And they were ladies' men around campus. They were playboys, as I call them. And I'm like, yo, we got to have two of those in our group, so we'll get the girls be like, Tracy, you can dance and sing. And I thought that would be fun. And one day these two guys, they drove by and saw us outside dancing and practicing. And that guy's name was Tyrone Wilson and Cameron, his partner. They were in a group, but they were older than us. They were in their 20s, of course, out of high school and all that stuff. And they've been writing songs and producing and doing that stuff. So they came over and they asked, they was like, hey, you guys are a group? And we like, yes, we're practicing for a little pep rally in my school. And that day was the day that changed my life. So they asked us to sing. And I knew the other guys in the group couldn't sing or harmonize together, but they could definitely lip sync to the tracks and dance extremely well. But at that point, they took my number down and they called me and they was like, hey, we want you to be in our group. And I was like, really? I was like, yeah. They was like, yeah. And I didn't care about the age, And at that point, Tyrone gave me my first shot at recording in a studio. Yeah. So we went to this recording studio. I heard myself on a microphone on a recording for the first time. And I was like, woo, I don't sound that good. When you sing out loud and you're like, oh my gosh, I sound pretty awesome.
Yeah.
At this point, after recording, I was like, oh, I don't sound as good as I thought I did. I could sing and hold a note, but I knew I needed a lot of work. And I had a lot of confidence. So me and Ty and the group that he started, which we called ourselves Tracy Ray, and I still don't know why we called ourselves Tracy Ray, because nobody was named Tracy, nobody was named Sewell Cameron, but Ray, my name ain't Ray. No, yeah. So I don't know why that, still to this day, why that was called that. But we rehearsed, and me and Ty were the strongest singers of the group. We got another guy in later on. We was constantly trying to find a fourth guy, but we could never find anybody that strong. And in the group, we would do these performances. I knew Tyrone could sing and play the piano and produce really well. I could write and arrange really well. And we wrote songs together. We would go out and do these local performances around town, which was cool. But a lot of times it would be last minute. Let's do it last minute. It takes me back to church when I would go to church and they were like, okay, learn this song like 30, 45 minutes. It was that type of stuff. But I knew in order for us to go to the next level, I felt like we need to put in time. If you want to be best. Just watching how New Edition did it in their videos or interviews or magazines, I knew that we need to spend a lot of time. So when we come out, we will be clean, we will be strong, we'll be up there with them. And then Boys to Men came out. Then Jodeci came out this time, like late 80s, early 90s at this point. And when they came out, we were like, these dudes got amazing harmonies. Jodeci's got all this crazy soul. It was insane. So we started covering their songs along with, before then, I had already started shifting my sound from studying Ralph Tresvant to Bobby Brown to studying Aaron Hall of God.
Okay.
And by me working with Tyrone Wilson, he introduced me to this guy named Charlie Wilson of the Gap Band. He's like,
Let me introduce you. I mean, to his music, not like say,
to
"Here's
his
Charlie."
music. Yes, to
Okay,
his
okay,
music. So
okay,
when I say
okay,
introduced me to him, that's what I mean. Into the
okay.
world of, you need to listen to this singer. You need to
Because that's where
study.
Aaron was really going. That's where Aaron
Aaron
yes,
Aaron was going for that particular sound, or had
yeah,
been studying him for a long time. But I didn't know much about Charlie Wilson. I've heard a couple things, Burn Rubber on Me from my aunt's house from the Gap Band, but I
yeah,
didn't put two and two together. When
yeah.
you look at the records, you just say, okay, that's the Gap Band. Not this is Charlie Wilson of the
Of the guy,
Gap Band.
yeah,
As a kid, because once again, my world was limited to, I couldn't be in them records like that, or else I get in trouble.
yeah,
So Tyrone introduced me to the Gap Band, Stevie Wonder, who I knew about, but to be honest with you, I wasn't that big of a Stevie Wonder fan. And it was possibly because I couldn't really sing Stevie's songs at that time. I didn't
mm,
know how to sing them or to approach them like that. And not saying that Charlie Wilson isn't that strong, but it was crazy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So he introduced me to that world of Charlie Wilson, started doing that. People started saying, yo, you sound like Uncle Charlie, you sound like this person. And I was like, that's great that they can say that, but here I am. I want to be able to have my own sound. And I just didn't know how to cultivate that at the
okay,
time, but by studying other singers, which is
mm,
part of, an exchange of adding some of their talents or tricks or whatever, their style into
yeah,
my own, which is developing into this different thing. Yeah.
mm.
Which later on became me. Yeah.
I mean, so in those early days, then, so you're hearing yourself on a record for the first time, and then you're perfecting your vocal, your range, and everything. But you also mentioned that you've got a young family and you're still in that young page. And then I'm wondering though, if you've got a baby to feed, a sort of family to support, are you then finishing school, then thinking go to college, or are you thinking I need to get some income coming in, or am I
Well,
thinking about going to sign for Uptown? How did that happen?
at that time, I was, like I said, I was singing and doing little shows with Ty
In the
while
Orlando area?
in the Orlando area, while working at Wendy's,
Oh, at Wendy's.
while working at Albertsons as a
Okay.
grocery bagger. Yeah, working there. I had worked at several different weird jobs, Subway, and then
Mm.
my girlfriend that I was dating, and we had kids. At this point, we had our second child,
Wow.
and she's working at Dunkin' Donuts, the night
Okay.
shift. She would go in like 7, 8, get off at 6 or 7 in the morning, and
Wow.
I'll be working at Wendy's, working until close, and then get off, blah 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 blah. And I knew I could no longer continue to work at Wendy's, but I still did. I picked up working another shift at Dunkin' Donuts, and we went over to sing at Jack the Rapper's office, the group Tracy Ray with Tyrone Wilson. And when we went in there, we were already had a lot of friction with each other because I was very upset with them because we weren't practicing as much as we needed to be better. And at that point, they had their own lives. I had my own life. They had their own doing their thing. But
Mm.
I knew I needed to make some changes. I got 2 kids and one on the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How old were you by this time?
At this time, I was 17, 18.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I was young, very young.
And
And
and you're still thinking you want to take this career full time.
I have to.
Wow.
By me not doing this, there's no options left. I can't take care of my children and my girlfriend at the time with the kind of income we were bringing in. I needed to do something. And because I felt like we weren't getting to this next level, we were trying some things. Ty had a connection with this lady named Dr. Quinn, who was a dentist outside skirts in a place called Sanford, outside skirts of Orlando. And she had a recording studio in the building of her dentist office.
Oh,
Yeah.
not hers, but in her dentist office. It wasn't her recording studio.
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. That's a
She had a
strange.
dentist. She had a dentist office, a dentist practice, which was
Okay.
in the front half of her building,
Yeah.
and in the back half, she had took equipment out and built a recording studio in a room in the back. Now,
Why?
outside that door, she had other dentist chairs here. Yeah, so she was wanting to get in the music industry as well.
Okay, as
Yep,
a dentist normally does.
as a dentist, yes. So Dr. Quinn was amazing because she loved music like that, and she really had an ear and an eye for talent. So we would be over there, and she set up a meeting one time with this girl group, which was from a girl from my high school. She started a group who wound up being a DJ for a radio station. Her name was April D, and her husband still a DJ at one of the radio stations in Orlando, which is crazy. So she worked with them, did a production deal with them. She was working with my group, and so she set up a meeting with us in the studio with a guy that she was doing dental work on, who was the roadie for New Kids on the Block, who was also the roadie for this group called Snap. I got the power.
Yeah.
So his name is Johnny Wright. So Johnny Wright used to come over there in a Geo Tracker, blue Geo Tracker, while he was the road manager for them. And then over the years, he turned into that Geo Tracker into a BMW green car. So he was moving up in the music industry. And he had told us at her studio that, hey, look, the music industry goes in cycles of 10 years. Every 10 years, nothing hasn't been replayed already. It's going to be replayed again, revisited. Boy bands are going to come back again in 10 years. And at that time, New Kids on the Block was kind of going down, their success was go down. And we was like, yeah, all right, whatever. You're just doing all this talk. But he was the closest thing to success in the music industry that we could sit down and chat with at this time. So at this point, Ty and all of us would do these little small performances, but they were never really panning out like that. You know what I'm saying? So we did this meeting at Jack the Rapper's office. They listened to us perform, even brought us up to the Jack the Rapper convention, but we never really got to perform there, but just to see how it worked here in Atlanta. Got back home and I was like, something's got to change. I can't do this anymore. I got to make some decisions. So that night, they took all of our numbers down and they called me and they said, look, we want to work with you. We don't want to work with the rest of the guys in the group. At that point, I was devastated because I knew I had to make some decisions, based off of my children, based off of if I'm really going to do this music thing, being that I already given up college, you know what I'm saying? I need to make some decisions. And I went over with the guy that we had two guys that was managing the group, this guy named Vince Williams and a guy named Mike Berry. And me and Mike Berry, we were pretty close. Vince was pretty close with Ty and the other guys because of his writing capabilities and all that other stuff. And so I was like, okay, look, the guys from Jack the Rapper, they called me. They wanted to do a solo project with me. And they got mad. Fight broke out, and it wasn't cool. It wasn't good. And I told them, I was like, look, I need to take this opportunity, but if I can bring you guys in on a couple of records, I want to do that and honor you guys and do that because we had wrote some records together and we wound up using one song called Give It a Try that me and Ty wrote, and we were able to put that on the album.
Okay.
Yeah. But it wasn't a good time. I felt like they were like brothers to me, but I had to make that decision.
Yeah.
Was I happy with it? No, but I had to. Yeah.
So what they wanted to sign you up for a solo deal, but at this point, then did you know what a solo deal was? Did you understand points? Did you understand contracts, or did you just?
I did not. I had no idea of points or contract. I didn't know any of that.
So you signed the dotted line and just says, "Okay, I'm going to be a recording artist."
It wasn't that quick. They gave the contracts, and my mom, she worked for Westinghouse at the time, which became Siemens, who she stayed with, which was her only job. Well, not only, but her final job, right? And she was used to dealing with contracts and stuff like that. She wasn't a lawyer, but she did watch a lot of law shows.
LA law and stuff, okay.
Yeah, right. She would watch all of that crime shows, and she would be on it, man. And when she saw the contract, she said, "You're never signing this."
Wow.
And I was like, "Mama, I have to sign this in order to move forward on this. I don't know what's going to happen, but this is my only way at this point to make some noise or to try and get into this industry thing." Now, mind you, before I did that deal, I had my I forget who I was around, but somebody asked me to sing something for my mom, and it wasn't gospel. And I was like, I can never sing anything that's not gospel around my mother.
Mm.
And I guess because of where our relationship was and I had left home early and all that stuff, I think she was willing to listen. And she did. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, you really got something.
Mm.
Let's go downtown Orlando." And they had this little place where they had a green screen and you could sing to karaoke tracks and make little small videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I did Jeff's Red song, "I Found Lovin'."
Okay. Okay.
And it's funny, my mom passed this year. She gave me she left me this crate and it has that video in my garage right now
Wow.
with that video, which is funny. But that was her way of saying, "I support you. I believe in you," you know?
Mm.
So when she read this contract, she was like, you should not sign this contract. But I was like, "Mama, I got 2 kids and one possibly on the way right now." I was like, me working at the donut shop is not going to get it. Me doing all this other stuff is not going to get it. I got some guys that I feel like believe in me and what I can do. I really need to do this. It could change my life and some of the people around me. And she's like, "All right, yeah, but I'm warning you, you shouldn't." And I signed it. I got a $5,000 advance. I've never had that much money in my life at one time. Yeah. And I was staying in the hood. And so I took my girlfriend and our two daughters, and moved us into a townhome, which was really nice in the area where we stayed at. And I paid the rent all the way up and we didn't have to worry about that. And at that point, I quit working at the donut shop. I was screwing up the donuts anyway. That wasn't for me.
You're telling me $5,000 could go that far?
Listen, for me, we were getting food stamps, man.
Okay.
We were getting government assistance. And what man wants to be proud of that? You know, so $5,000 back in was that 90, 91? Yo, it was not 90, 991, 92. This is 92.
Okay.
And I was able to use that money to get us out of a neighborhood that was going down, you know, and put us in a nice townhome. Yeah,
Okay.
where we had 3 bedrooms, you know. So my thing was, let's do that. And I can take care of them. Then I can go to the studio every night and grind it out just like that. And that's what happened. And then they brought me to Atlanta to work with a producer by the name of Kevin Kendricks, who was a part of Cameo. And he also worked with Madonna. At that time, he was putting together, working with some young ladies by the name of Escape, which Jermaine Dupri winded up signing at that time.
Okay.
So I came up here writing with him for a minute, then went back to Orlando. And I was like, okay, I got this deal. There's a lot of friction between me and Tracy Ray. So I can't write songs with them and try and bring them on board. So if anything happens with me, we'll already have an album done and we could do it together. You know what I'm saying? So that was out of the question. But my brother was putting together a group. And so I started writing songs for his group. And I wrote this song called Foreplay for his group. And it's so funny. I was a big R. Kelly and the Public Announcement fan. Massive R. Kelly and the Public Announcement fan at this time. And he had this song called Vibe and all these songs. And so my brother's group would perform some of his songs in talent shows, Honey Love, all that stuff. And I thought this dude was incredible. And he basically took Aaron Hall and Marvin Winans style. Yeah. And that's how I felt. But I still loved him. I was a fan of his. Yeah. Not his personal life.
But as a singer,
the artist,
the artist,
songwriter, musician, everything. I had a lot of respect for him, and as far as his music is concerned. But with that being said, at that time, oh gosh, I got so much stuff going on in my head. Sorry. Yeah, but at that time, it was like I came back home, wrote this song for my brother's group called Foreplay, and I was like, "Hey, I want y'all to hear some songs that I wrote for my brother's group." It's like, "Oh, your brother? You got a brother that sing too?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah," and he plays piano and his group. Here's a song I wrote for his group, and I want y'all to check it out. Maybe we could do it together or whatever. So they came up to the studio, and my mind, and I'm like, okay, we get something popping for me. I can get my brother's group, and we can all go on tour together, and I'll have a family on the road.
Yeah, yeah.
So I play this song Foreplay for them, and they were like, "Whoa, you wrote that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I told y'all I write and come up with melodies. This is my thing." And at that point, it was like, "All right, cool. Everybody go home, da 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 da." I got in the car with Lewis. Lewis was like, "Look, you need to do this song for you. We can get your brother's group to feature on the record with you, but you need to do that song," just like that. So they got me with this guy who I had already met named Fight Ren, who plays keys. And at that time, he was definitely a better keyboard or piano player than my brother was. My brother was just, church cat, was still dope,
Yeah, yeah.
but there was a lot that he needed to learn about song structure and all that. And Fight had all of that stuff. And then he got CC Lemonhead to do the drum track, drums for the track as well. CC was a really big person as far as bass music is concerned. So he was really dope at putting tracks together like that. So he layered it with that. And we had Foreplay, which was my biggest single at that point.
And this was released on what record
Ribbit
label?
Records. Yeah.
Okay.
So the guys, Louis Bell and Barry Dufay, instead of managing me at that point, they was like, okay, we got something. So instead of shopping it to the label, they shopped it to labels, and they were getting some interest and then a lot that they weren't.
Yeah.
And they winded up, they had a relationship with the program director of 102 Jams, and that guy's name was Cedric Hollywood. Cedric Hollywood listened to the record. He was like, "Yo, y'all got something." And this guy that ran the Quiet Storm at nighttime, I think it was like 10 to 2 or something like that. His name was Bruce Bebop. He played the song just to test it on the Quiet Storm. And I remember the first time I heard it, I was in that townhouse with my girlfriend, and we were all screaming like crazy, like, "Oh my gosh, the song's on the radio." And then people just kept requesting it. It went crazy. And then the record just took off. And then, so at that point, instead of them being management, they was like, "Okay, we're just going to start our own label." And they called it Rip It Records.
Okay. Okay. So did you record a full album with them? Because I know
full album that's titled "You're the One."
Okay, because there was a DJ out of the UK, Stevie said when I turned on, I was going to interview. Said, "What happened to your debut album on Rip It Record? That did it get released?"
Yeah, it did. Yeah, the debut album did get released. It released in '94. Yeah, titled "You're the One." Yeah, the whole album.
Okay, but
yeah.
then
So the single dropped on August the 11th, and we premiered it at Jack the Rapper Music Convention, but it didn't get released to the record stores until October. It was just taken off so fast, and with it being an independent label, they didn't have the funds to kind of roll it out. So I guess they had to borrow the money to actually get it out there.
Yeah, so about wondering, because back in those days, I mean, it's unlike as an independent, how were they competing with the big? How are they getting the records made and put in the stores and promoting it?
From my understanding, they had to get with a distributor. You know what I'm saying? There was the distribution company here in Atlanta, one in, I remember in Texas, because I had to go to these places and shake hands with them, and meet them through pictures and autograph signings and stuff like that. And some of the mom and pop stores, which I thought was it was amazing to go to the mom and pop stores, because they was my biggest supporters. That would take like independent record labels versus me signing with like a Sony or a Zumba or Jive Records at the time, who could get you right into those stores. But to get an independent artist in those stores, you had to really go out and shake a lot of hands. And those are things at that time I really didn't understand. But as I got older, I'm like, oh, that's what y'all were doing. So it made a lot of sense. So
But how did the record do? The
So,
single and yeah.
so I've heard several different things, So the single, when Cedric Hollywood and 102 Jams with Bartell and the VJs there, they played the record. The record was like, this is Florida, this is Orlando's own, like a son of Orlando celebrating me for that. Here's Orlando's own, and it took off. Their sister stations in Miami, Jacksonville, Florida, Tampa, Florida, all of them started picking the record up and just copying it. So it was this burnt cassette tape that they had made. Even in the mom and pop stores, they were dubbing the record and selling it, just selling it as is, because people were wanting the record. And all the way up through the Carolinas. I remember doing the show at BLS in New York. So it was spreading, taking off on its own. You know what I'm saying? It had the potential to be even bigger. Now, later on, I found out that other labels wanted to sign me. And that guy that used to go to Dr. Quinn's studio, he tried to help out with the record, as he told me later on, like recently later on.
Yeah.
That, hey, he was trying to get involved because he had a relationship with some of those labels that wanted to sign me, and they rejected that.
This Ripid Records didn't want to do the
No,
deal.
they didn't want to do a deal. That's what I found out later on. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's
yeah.
I hold no grudges anymore. But I was like, wow, that's true? That's crazy. Even CC, the guy that was making the beat, he was like, they didn't tell you about this deal that they offered. So I don't know any of that.
Yeah.
At that time, I just wanted to make music and just keep it moving.
But so they've given you $5,000 advance. Your record is doing well. Are you seeing money coming in for that?
I got two more advances of $5,000. Well, I got another advance for $5,000, another one for $1,000, and then for me to do this little independent small tour. I forget what the touring promoter was. They advanced me like $5,000 to do like so many club shows, and I got that. So a total of like $16,000.
And then what was the album's done out? Then what?
Yeah, so for the person that was working, or the few people that was working in the label, they were like, there's a lot of things that are going on, with this record, stuff being sold on the table, stuff been doing, like I've heard a lot of those different things where I've heard the single did 700,000, it sold 1 million copies. I've heard a lot. I don't know, man. You know what I'm saying? But at this point, I just knew I just wanted to do music, and we'll take care of the rest later on. Not realizing that the business, like my mom said, should have been squared away from the beginning. But I felt like I didn't have that option at all. I just knew I needed to make it. I was still catching the bus. I was still catching the city bus around town with the hottest record in Orlando and the state of Florida, and in a lot of cities. And at that time, they decided to sign another group who was hot, who were friends of mine. Not at that time, I kind of met them, but they signed the 69 Boys, who had this song called
Who that is? Yeah.
Oh, no. That's 95 South. 95 South was signed to, I want to say it was Ichiban at that time, but they were really close with Jay Ski at this point, because Jay Ski did he signed the 69 Boys, and the 69 Boys had this song called Tootsie Roll.
Yeah, Tootsie Roll. Let me see. I went to college in Alabama, so yeah.
Alabama was big for us.
Yeah,
especially Dothan.
Yeah. I was in Selma, but yeah, Tootsie Roll. Yeah, everyone did Tootsie Roll.
So they were constantly going up and down the highway with that record, and they sold millions of copies. And they had a song on a movie soundtrack. They had songs.
Yeah, because when you talk a Ripper record, I was always associated it with the South, because it did seem strange that you were on there, because it seemed like they were doing the hip hop, they were doing that type of sudden hit rap.
Yeah, so at that time it was like the bass music. You think about what Johnny said, things goes back in cycles of 10. When I was a kid playing Luke, he had got a lot of heat because of how vulgar his music was.
Yeah.
I called it honesty. People just liked it. That it was party music. I liked it. I didn't know no better or what it was really talking about. But
Yeah.
then that started to fade down. And then 95 South, when I was up here in Atlanta working with Kevin Kendricks, they were going to the clubs, shopping their record, Whoop, There It Is.
Yeah.
And at the same time, some DJs here was coming up with their saying, Whoop, There It Is, which was a group by the name of Tag Team.
Tag team. Yeah. Yeah.
And so both of those records came out at the same time. Tag Team Records was really big, and so was Whoop, There It Is. But in Atlanta, they chose Whoop, There It Is because it was from here,
Yeah.
so, which was
so
big.
being on the same label with the 96, 95 with that track Tootsie Roll, did that help your career?
I was the only balladeer on that time of bass music at that time. I was the only person that was singing to bass music. It was different. It was unique. And I just felt like at that time, they really didn't know
what to do
with me at that point. I felt like they were trying, I didn't know. I mean, the bass music was just, it took off just like as fast as my record did. And you got to think, my record Foreplay was the only thing on my album that sounded like Foreplay. That whole album should have been revamped into other songs that led into that kind of stuff. We actually, my introduction to Walter Mucho Scott came in the form of a meeting that my guys, that Rip and Lewis, they went to Virginia Beach to sit down and talk with Teddy Riley about doing a remix or doing some songs on an album. And of course, at that time, Teddy was so busy with everything.
Bobby Brown, he did Michael Jackson, SWV, he was in Blackstreet, yeah. So that was.
He was on. This was even before Blackstreet. He was on fire.
Yeah.
Everybody was going to his store, his place for hits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And at that point, he had a whole bunch of producers. And now, mind you, in some of these talent show performances, I used to dress up in all black all the time, high top fade. I used to want to be like Diesel. Daryl Allen.
So you knew about Basic Black?
I knew about Basic Black. Nothing But a Party, Special Kind of Food. You know what I'm saying? I used to vibe to their stuff all the time. And when I found out that Teddy couldn't do the remix on my title track of the album, You're the One, he sent this guy named Walter Mucho Scott, who had a track record. He was up and coming producer. Of course, he did the Basic Black stuff with his.
You didn't know he was part of Basic Black.
I had no idea. I just knew he was funny. I thought he was funny in videos. He was always on the drum doing all this stuff. I'm like, what is he doing, man? What's that? I was like, that dude looks like he's having fun. I want to party with him. That's my man. He on the drums playing that thing like that. Having a good, and then on the keyboard.
Yeah.
I was like, yo. That's my dude. And then Diesel's voice, he had a voice of an angel, man.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was like, man, I'm going to sing his song. And Special Kind of Food was the joint. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What was the other one? She's Mine.
She's Mine.
One. Yeah, which I thought, I Want You by Blackstreet was pretty much a spinoff off of that, which it could have been because I think they were like the backup band or on tour with them. All of them were rolling together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I interviewed Spec and even Mucho and Basic Black were the backup band for Today. So
for
Bub.
Today, Big Bub.
And so but they were part of the whole camp with GR and Teddy and stuff. And so they were all one family.
All of them were, yeah. And so the more I learned about that, I'm like, man, that's probably where I'm supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? I've been studying all of them, got my chops up, still working on being better. That's where I need to be. So at this point, Teddy can do the remix. They brought Mucho and they flew Mucho into Orlando. Him and his brother Zach. His brother Zach, me and him met up. We went bowling before they brought Mucho down. I guess he was there to fill me out. And I don't know how much you know about Zach, but he's a bass player, Mucho's brother.
Yeah. I mean, I spoke to Jay Hart and he talked about his Uncle Zach and
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Columbus, Georgia, man, they on fire. Joe came from there, the singer Joe.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there jamming, talking with him, and he was like, "Yo, I'm gonna get my brother to come down there and work with you like that." And I was like, "Okay, it'll be fun." He comes in, he started to work on the remix to "You're the One," but then he said, he pulled me to the side. He's like, "Hey man, I'm working on this group thing." I was like, "Okay, what's the group?" He said, "I want to put together this group project, and we're gonna call it 911." He was like, "I want you, Joe Thomas, and me to be in the group."
Joe Thomas. You kidding me?
No, I'm in love, Joe. Now,
Yeah.
mind you, I'm in love is on fire. He's out. We doing like all these radio dates. He's doing one. We meet in Fayetteville, North Carolina. His trailer's right next to mine. I go over to Joe's trailer and I say, "Yo," I said, "Joe," I said, "Are you really about to do this project? I just want to know because it'll be great if we can do it, if you're doing it." And he said yes, but it was the kind of yes like no. Which in turn, it was a no.
I mean, because
And
he was blowing up. I mean, he didn't need to be in part of a group.
he did not need to be in part of a group. You know what I'm saying? He didn't, and nor did I, to be honest with you. And for me, I was like, here's a chance. You know, I'm not really seeing the kind of money coming from my solo career. And at that time, somebody was calling, I want to say it Robin Hood or something, some DJ out of the UK was calling to have me come and do like a show. I did a radio interview and all this other stuff at the label, Rip It Records, and was possibly going to go over there and do like a couple shows there. And the label gave me the option to either do the shows there or to go and start working on this group project 911, which I would still have my solo career and the 911 project at the same time. And they were cool with that. So I get to Atlanta, get with Mucho, and he says Joe can't do the group because Island won't let him if they can't have the album. So that's out of the question. But we have Diesel. And I'm like, who is Diesel? I'm like, who's that? Yeah, because I didn't know Basic Black's lead singer's first name. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a lot of artists. I just don't do it. I just tie whatever name they call themselves, that's that group. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Jagged Edge, I can't tell you the name of them. You know, Boys to Men, I could tell you some of them. You know, Guy, yes. Yeah, but a lot of them I can't. So I'm like, okay, Diesel? Yeah, Daryl, man, lead singer from Basic Black. Oh, no way. I lose my mind. I was like, he's my hero. He's in this house. He's like, yeah, there he is right there. Daryl. I lost my mind. I'm like, this is my hero. You know, even over Aaron, and definitely over Aaron, because when I had promoted my album, you know, the single Foreplay at Jack the Rapper Music Convention, I had a girl I was dating that was there. And we had just saw Tupac, who just came in with his crew and West Coast, all this crazy stuff that's going on at Jack the Rapper. Just like the movie, this stuff was happening. And I'm on the elevator. Aaron Hall gets on the elevator with me and my girlfriend, and he's got a girl with him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to say something to him. I said, Aaron, I said, listen, I said, you changed my life as a singer, and I just want to thank you for that. I said, I would not be the vocalist I am had it not been for me studying your music and what you've done to the world of R&B. Thank you. He said, yo, man, get off my dick. In front of my girl and his girl. And I was like, wow. Wow. I was in shock.
My goodness.
My other hero, that I looked up to. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that rude. Yeah, just like that. So I was like, okay, it is what it is. I look at my girlfriend. I couldn't even, I looked at her. I was so embarrassed.
Yeah.
If I called her right now, she would remember that. And she'd probably start laughing again because she was in shock just as much as I am. But anyway, so in that case, I got to work with Daryl.
And what year was this? Because I'm just wondering where he was this after Guy Future album? Was this when he was doing his solo one?
So 94,
94. So
90.
he would have just come out
Wait,
with
wait,
The
wait.
Truth.
No.
Okay.
So 93. This was 93. Jack the Rapper was when I promoted my single. Yep, that's when that happened.
Okay.
Foreplay.
93. So So this
Yeah,
is Juice. So he would have come out with his own. So he might have been there to promote his solo album, The Truth.
he was. He was there for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
was that? Yeah.
Okay.
But even still, yeah.
No, it's not. No, I'm not making excuses. This is
No. That ego, it was pretty crazy, you know. But I mean, it is what it is.
yeah,
It
yeah.
is what it is. I mean, I believe what you put out in the world, it comes back to you. If you throw negative energy out, it's
Mm,
gonna come right back to you. Yeah, every single time. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So make a long story short, all right, so we're working on this group project. Things are happening that I don't agree with the group with 911. Things aren't really going in a direction where I thought the group was gonna have some success. My label, they're having problems with money for the budget, all this other stuff, and so the group decides in a nutshell that they don't want to be a part of Rip Records anymore. Teddy wants to get signed the group.
Now, is this after Cutie comes out though? Because I'm just wondering,
Yeah,
have you?
we recorded Cutie. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just wondering. So you recorded Cutie, because Mooch's, when I interviewed him, he mentioned you guys recorded Cutie. Teddy hears it in Europe, and he comes back and says, "Okay, I need to get you guys," and he does a buyout with Ripper Records. But from your point of view, Were you involved? Did you understand what was happening?
I did not. But I was. You got to think. I'm already in a weird space already. You know, I'm at the label, Rip It Records. I move up to Atlanta. I'm staying at my girlfriend's because I didn't want to stay at the house where they were recording everything. I had my reasons for that. Where Diesel, Mucho, and the manager of the group, they had a studio in the house. So I would drive or even walk down there and go to the studio and
Mm.
record. But at that point, we had already recorded with Rip It Records a music video. There's a music video. I don't know if you've seen it, but we shot the music video in New
Of
York.
Cutie.
Yeah, of Cutie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did all of that, went back in the studio, worked on the album, and because of what was going on, I wasn't making no money.
Mm.
You know, I wasn't making any money. I was being promised, hey, we finished this project. I'll get this much money, you know, for working on there or whatever that was, and never saw it. Yeah, I needed help. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, I was depressed. I was frustrated. I didn't want anything else to do with the music. You know what I'm saying anymore. And so at this point, I got with. There was a Christmas party that happened. We all got down to Orlando. I told the label that I'm done with this music thing. I'm out. I told the manager of the group that I did not want to do the group project anymore. I'll find a replacement for me, but I didn't want to do it anymore. Yeah, I was frustrated for good reason. And at that point, I was like, I offered the group the position to Ty Wilson, the guy that gave me my first chance in the studio. They flew him in. He didn't want to be a part of it after seeing whatever he saw for whatever reason. And at that point, me and him had a mutual friend named Marcus Vance out of Tampa, Florida. I met Marcus when I was doing some performances there at some of the clubs and places like that. He used to be the guy on the radio, not the radio, but on the microphone before the shows that introduced the artists or get the party hype and all that stuff. So he was really dope, and he could sing. And me and him stayed in contact with each other, and I knew he was struggling to get out of Tampa to make moves. And so I offered the position to him. We had a similar sound. You know, he could dance, he could do all this other good stuff. And I thought he was a great guy, and I offered the position to him. They flew him up to Atlanta, and he had to re-sing all of my parts on all the songs, with the exception of the songs that I didn't sing on.
Okay. Okay.
Like something about the way a guy named Shannon, who's a dope songwriter, arranger, vocalist, wrote that, and Marcus sung that song. But everything else, pretty much, I sung or wrote on.
So was this the stuff that had Misery, that had
Misery, yes. Rescue Me, which
Rescue?
Guy winded up using. Blackstreet winded up using some of those records. And they
Yeah.
still don't do justice to them based on what Diesel or I did on those records. Yeah.
You know, I yesterday I heard Misery for the first time,
With Diesel's voice on it?
with Diesel's voice, because Spec was posted it on Instagram, and I said,
Insane.
and I listened to it, and I said, oh, but this is from Blackstreet, and this was the one that they did in Blackstreet, which was just a small little interlude.
Yeah.
But then Mucho sent me the full stuff, and I was really
Yeah.
surprised. I listened to it and was like, wow, what a.
Yeah.
And then Mucho mentioned about how from Rescue Me and everything, that the way he performed it was
Nobody could touch it. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody could touch it. Yeah. Nobody. Diesel was on another level when it came to singing. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah. So Marcus, he had to come in and there's a song called The Ride. Yeah. The whole album was incredible. It really was. Yeah. So there was a lot of stuff that was left off of that he had to go back and re-record that I wasn't on. Yeah.
So you're that adamant that you didn't want to be part of it, that you've done all this work and you're ready just to give it up.
I gave it up. I let it all go. I went and got a job at PetSmart, not too far from my house right now. Yeah. I gave it all up. I walked away. I worked there. I worked at Macy's. I worked at Office Max. I did all these jobs. I literally walked and let it all go.
Wow.
Now, the manager of the group approached me when I was at a check cashing store and had his guys meet me in there and wanted to have a conversation about me coming back to the group. And I just told him, I said, it's not in me no more. The industry is not what I thought it was going to be. I just want to sing and write songs. And if I had success out of that and could take care of my family, that's all I ever wanted from that. I would be happy with just doing that, Now, people want to be super famous. Sometimes it just comes with the territory. I wasn't in there to be super famous. I wanted to write good songs that could actually heal people or inspire people to do great things and be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I was seeing, I was like, nope, I ain't signed up for none of that. And I gave it all up.
And then did you just completely just decide, okay, now I've walked away, or did you ever then get that things just changed afterwards?
I left it all. Of course, me and my girlfriend, we had fights and everything like that because I was in a funk. I thought I had did this great thing that was going to help change my life and the people around me. And I just didn't have the passion for it anymore based off of what I saw. I literally stopped singing completely. Stopped. Yeah, no practice, no nothing. Tried to do a corporate band thing, went in there, and it was like my voice didn't work anymore because I had just let it go. It wasn't that it was broke, it was just out of shape. And at that point, I let it go, decided to go back to college, get a degree, work on getting a degree for working with kids, as a school teacher. And I did that for a minute. And then, just before doing that, I had got a call from, I had let the group go. I'm trying to remember all the order and stuff. This is crazy. Let the group go, got a job up here, doing all of that stuff. Me and my girlfriend, we fell out with each other over some things, over me not bringing money in. So I started having to get these jobs to try and bring income in. And I got a call from the label saying, okay, look, we want to give you a shot at Rip It Records to do another solo project. And of course, they're like, who you want to work with on this project? And I said, if I'm gonna do a solo project again, I want to work with Mucho and work on my second album together with him. And that's where it started. So me and him started working together. once again, in the area where I dreamed of living, I live here now, which is funny. But the studio that he wound up building, we wound up working at a studio not far from here, which is crazy. And we started working on the album. And while working on that album, we were doing, believe it or not, some of the 911 albums, songs for the 911 album at the same time. Daryl would come up and cut some of those records or whatever, whatnot. But that's a whole nother story. But at that time, I had gotten another advance, and I would get the other half of the advance once we finished the project. Well, we finished my second album, but we never released anything. That's when the label went through this thing with the IRS.
Okay.
Yeah, and that stopped all of that.
Maybe this is so. What happened to the album?
It's still sitting.
With who?
I have it.
Okay, okay. But who owns it though? You or the label?
Well, I think the label sold, I guess, whatever their parts to this company out of Miami that buys up all kinds of records and stuff like that. I think they did something like that. Yeah.
And so they haven't decided to release it, or who makes the decision on what happens to the music?
I don't know. I just kind of wash my hands of that, to be honest with you, because it'll just dig up all these old skeletons and then have to fight. My goal is to just start working on something new.
Okay, but you've got a copy of what you have, but you can't release it. You can't leak it out or anything.
I can release it if I want to, and then we'll just have to go to court if we do. You know what I'm saying? Because they never got my signature on anything, even my first album. You know what I'm saying? They never got any of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll be in a big fight. Yeah, if that ever goes down.
So they finish the album and then they have legal trouble. So where are you now? Just knowing that you gave them another chance and then this has happened. What does that do for you?
Well, I listened to that whole album, the second album, and they had a listening party before all the stuff with the label.
Yeah.
You know, that happened with the IRS. They were like, okay, yeah, we're looking at putting out singles. You know, they were really excited. And for me, even when I listen back to it now, there's probably like 3 songs out of 12 songs that were pretty cool.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even when I listen to it, I'm like, ugh. I'm sure a lot of artists are like that when they go back and listen to old songs, old material. You know, and it's probably like 3 songs that I'm like, yeah, that's not bad. You know what I mean? Yeah, but at that point, you know, I knew there was nothing else I could do there. And then I just let it all go. I did. So I'm in college. Went back to school as a teacher, you know, well, to be a teacher, doing all these psychology classes and all this other stuff. And I started falling in love with singing again. I met this guy named Nelson Gray, who was from the church, who plays, and we started vibing in some of the music halls between classes and just writing songs again. And then one of the professors asked me, he was like, hey, you know, are you a voice major? And I was like, no, not at all. And it was like, why not? And I was like, yeah, I'm just not interested in being a voice major because I felt like, you know, I didn't want to sing classical music. I didn't want to sing opera. I didn't want to do any of that.
Yeah.
And then I had all these questions about the voice, always fascinated with singers' voices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, if I was to do anything, I want to be a part of something like that. And he was like, well, look, if you sing or audition for this choir, you could come in and we'll give you a scholarship, partial scholarship, you know, which was extra money to help me pay bills because I wasn't living on campus. I was off campus, had an apartment, working at Applebee's as a waiter, you know, doing all that stuff and coaching gymnastics on the side.
Wow, goodness.
You know, so I started doing that. And then I found my way back to church and I started singing in church. Well, before I started singing in church, I used to love going to the movie theater and the popcorn and all that stuff. And one day I saw that there was this particular church called New Birth, which was really awesome here, but it was far away from my apartment.
Yeah.
They had a New Birth South location in the movie theater, not too far from my apartment. And I was like, you know what, I'll just come in and check out service. I went, checked out service. The service was bumping. And I looked down. I'm like, that guy on bass looks familiar. I was like, I'll wait and meet him after church. And sure enough, it was Zach, Mucho's
Oh.
brother. And I'm like, look at God, you know. And at that point, me and him, we started talking, you know, and just laughing and hanging out. And by me going back to church and avoiding giving my life back to Christ, I had rededicated my life back to Christ. And I asked God to be my manager. And I told God, I was like, look, whatever you tell me to do, wherever you tell me to go, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll say whatever you tell me to say in the story. And one day I was singing on the praise team. Zach comes up to me and says, hey man, you heard from Diesel? I was like, no, I haven't heard from Diesel. He said, he's been trying to reach out and get a hold of you. No way, man. I was like, my number's still the same. And he was like, yeah, he's trying to call you. You want to take that call? I was like, okay. So Diesel called me one Sunday afternoon. And mind you, I had this big powwow prayer thing with God about my voice. I was like, look, you gave me this instrument to use, and all it's done was brought me grief. This rate, you can have it back. I don't want it. I'm telling God all this stuff, and he can take it away if he wanted to. And then there's silence. And then I was like, you know what? I like singing. Don't take it back from me. I really love singing. But if you become my manager, everything will be all right. And anything go wrong, it's your fault.
Yeah.
There's silence again. And I was like, well, if it goes wrong, it's my fault. But that was the point where I asked God to be my manager. And that's when I saw Zach at church. You know what I'm saying? Mm. And then it's funny, after I talked to Daryl, he was like, man, he was like, look, you'll never guess who I met with at the studio. I was like, who? He said, Justin Timberlake. I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's fantastic. He was like, yeah, he's in the studio working with Serban, this engineer that he works with in Virginia Beach. Now, Daryl's an in-house producer working on remixes like Fix, you know, Blackstreet remixes and all these other stuff. So he's an in-house producer as well. And so he said, yeah, man, I had a meeting with, with Justin. You know, he's in the studio working with Chad and Pharrell. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I was like, yo, if you see his manager, Johnny Wright, who's managing, remember the guy from the dentist's office?
Oh, he's now the manager. Whoa, the roadie. Okay.
Yeah, right. Not only the manager for him, but he was the manager of NSYNC when NSYNC was huge. The Backstreet Boys, right? Him and Lou Pearlman. And then Lou Pearlman got out of the way then.
Out of, Orlando. Yeah. That's what, yeah.
Right? So here this is. So he's I said, look, if you talk to Johnny Wright, let him know I'm getting ready to move from Atlanta and move back home. And I knew that Johnny has a compound that has a bowling alley, movie theater, a rehearsal spot for the band, recording studio. I'll be the guy that clean up anything just to try and get back in the industry, whatever it takes.
Is that what you're saying? No, that's what Diesel's saying.
I'm saying all this stuff. So I'm like, yo, if you see Johnny,
okay, tell him
tell him that I'm trying to get back home. And at that time, he was trying to help me get my deal, you know, when the label was managing me before they turned it to Rip It Records. So I'm like, okay. He's like, okay, but I haven't seen no Johnny Wright. This guy named Silas is in the studio with Justin A&R and the record. And Silas managed Brian McKnight, who was also from Orlando, but claims New York, but he's from Orlando as well. Yeah, with his brother Claude. So anyway, so he says, okay, if I see him, I'll let him know, but that's not what I called you for. He said, I called you because Justin is getting ready to go on tour with this solo album, Justified, and he wants me to find the other guy to go on road with him. I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Who are you going to call? Hey, you big dummy. I was like, no way. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, if it happens, it happens. But if it doesn't, thank you for even thinking about me, man. That's amazing. So we hang up the phone. 9 days later, me and Daryl are in LA singing in rehearsals for Justin Timberlake as his background singers. Yeah. And that's how that went.
And then was that stuff that you just forged a career just working with him on tour? I mean, how was that, a long tour?
So we started that week was the last week of October leading into Halloween, when he had a whole big press junket thing that he had to do. We flew in, I want to say it was on a Monday, rehearsals that Tuesday, Wednesday a performance, Thursday a performance, Friday I was back in college on campus singing.
Okay.
Yeah, we did Jay Leno, we did a bunch of other stuff, and Justin obviously liked us. He liked us because we didn't have to audition. We just got on the mic and started singing.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it had a lot to do with Serban telling Rex, telling Silas about Diesel, and none of that wouldn't have happened, had it not been for that connection. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever
And
meet Johnny then? Johnny Wright?
so that Tuesday we're in rehearsal, no Johnny. That Wednesday, Justin told us he was going to have his voice coach come in. Her name is Robin Wiley, and she coached the kids on the Mickey Mouse Club. She worked with NSYNC, doing arrangements and all this other stuff, and coached the kids on that. So we're in rehearsal this Wednesday. Johnny Wright walks through the door. Johnny, Rob, what you doing here? Man, I was trying to get a hold of you. I was getting ready to move back to Orlando and was looking for a place to start work. And I heard you got this compound. He was like, well, you're hired. You ain't got to worry about going to Orlando. Here you go.
Wow.
Just like that. Yeah. So we started working with Justin from 2002 until 2010 before he
Wow.
took a long break. Yeah. And then when he took a long break, he came back 2012, but the music director that was with us all those years had went on to work with Madonna, who's also out of Orlando, Kevin Anthony's. And by him working for Madonna, he couldn't do both because Madonna had him on a really strict schedule. So he brought in a new music director who I had never worked with, named Adam Blackstone, who's incredible as well. And Adam brought here a whole new team in, with the exception of two people, and that was Terry Santil, Mike Scott and Brian on the drums. So he brought in a whole new team, new background singers and everything. But because of the stuff that Justin saw that I was doing on the tour, like I put together these tour booklets together for all the singers, the band, the music director, the artist, not the band, but the music director and the artist, that had all the lyrics in there, all the backgrounds highlighted and everything that we're supposed to sing versus what the artist sings, and would warm him up every night before the show, because his voice coach, she had passed, and I had been studying some of the stuff that she was doing ahead of time, and not to try and get the job, but to try and be a better singer. And at that point, when he changed music directors, I was no longer a background singer with him. Neither was anybody else. They brought in their own new team. But because what I was doing as the lead vocalist of the singers, Justin hired me to come back in and coach him, coach the singers, and do all the vocal arranging for the whole tour.
Wow.
So I went on working with him on the 2013, 2020 Experience Tour, and that was 2013 to 2014, 15. Actually, before they did the 2020 tour, they did the Legends of the Summer Tour with him and Jay-Z. And then I did the 2020 Experience Tour. Then I did the Man of the Woods Tour with him, which was just last year, finished in April of last year. So I still work with him to this day.
So, but when you're doing the tours, then when the tours are not happening, what happens in between?
So here's the deal. So mind you, if I had been working for Justin exclusively, I wouldn't be able to have the flexibility of working with other artists. So while working with Justin, he used to do this thing called this charity concert in Vegas called the Shriners Children's Hospital benefit concert. And he would bring in a lot of special guests to perform, and his band was the house band for that. And so I was responsible for, doing arrangements for any of the artists that came through. And sometimes it'll be up to like 30 something songs in one night. And it may not seem like a lot, but it's a lot of work, you know, and a lot of singing and a lot of rehearsing and all that stuff. But you're getting paid good to do that, which wasn't a problem. And one of the artists, just to name a few of them, was like Taylor Swift, Selena Gomez, Rihanna, who I wasn't working with at the time, Leona Lewis, Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent, Lionel Richie, a lot of people on these tours. And later on, I wound up coaching a lot of them as well as a voice coach.
Wow.
Yeah.
So right now, I mean, from trying to do your own solo stuff, and when you sort of had that sort of agreement where you switch managers, you're now coaching, and what's the difference for you personally in the role that you are now compared to where you were trying to get to before?
I miss singing. I miss performing. I miss those things, but I get a lot of joy out of helping people. So much joy, you know, and it still feels the same to me. The only difference is I don't have to have the stress of being on stage, doing it in front of people, although it's a different high, you know what I'm saying? But for me, singers they deal with a lot. Some of them have anxiety, you know, some of them fear going out and performing, you know, some of them, you know, lose confidence in their own singing voice. And by me being able to help them in that area and to see them and, you know, get out there on stage and the light bulb goes off and they shine and have success, that gives me a whole lot of joy. A whole lot of joy. It makes me super happy.
So your ability, the options for you to actually still perform, is that completely gone? I mean,
no, it's not. It's not. It's funny. I've taken off 2 weeks during this crazy pandemic, you know, because I need it, and to give myself an opportunity to work on some stuff that I've been wanting to work on, you know, for my personal being. So I'm gonna do something in here in a minute.
okay.
But at the same time, I've been able to arrange stuff for people's albums and sing with them in concert. You know, I coach an artist by the name of Brandy Carlisle. I think she's 7-time nominee or 8-time Grammy nominee, and she's won 4 or 5 of them. She's nominated for several more next year. Coach Rihanna. I'm coaching Lizzo. I've got to coach Charlie Wilson. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
What does a coach do? What does a vocal coach do? Or what are you doing?
Okay, so a vocal coach's responsibility, if I can relate this in layman's terms,
Okay.
is if you can imagine every sport has coaches.
Yeah.
The job of the coach is to stand on the outside and see things that the artist can't really see.
Yeah.
Objectively anyway. So a coach, like for instance, when Michael Jordan didn't make the high school basketball team, it wasn't because he was absolutely terrible. At that time, there were guys that was probably performing at a higher level than he was at that time. So I'm sure his dad and his big brother was like, okay, look, we need to develop these skills to get you on this level and beyond. And then for him, at some point, he had to say, okay, if I want to be great or the best to ever play this game, I have to be in the gym longer. I have to work on my crossover. I have to do these kind of exercises to be able to have more hang time. When I jump up, people are on their way down and I'm dunking. It's that type of process. So a coach, all we are coaches for singers. We build strength, endurance, stamina, you know, vocal agility, you know, breath control, all those different things. And we work alongside doctors like ear, nose, and throat doctors to make sure they're getting the best care as well. And so like if I'm out with an artist or even at home working with them online, there are certain exercises to build strength based on focused goals. Like if a singer is having trouble with breath control, there's exercises for that. If they're having situations where they're straining all the time and their voice is burning out or going out, there's exercises to alleviate a lot of that tension in the voice. If they have vocal injuries and stuff like that, there's exercises to rehabilitate that as well. So, yeah, so it's a lot that goes in it.
But then in the midst of doing this, then is it stuff that mainly when they're going on tour and they have performances that they call you up, or Justin's probably doing movies now? Will he just call you? And I think he's recording an album. Would he then need you while he's recording his album?
Sometimes there's artists that do, and then there's other artists, like in his case with me, he don't call me until he's ready to go and perform.
Okay.
Yeah, I call that the Dragnet squad. They go da 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 da. I'll get an email at this time of the morning. Da 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 da. Are you available at this time? Can you be at this location at this time? Da 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 da. Car will pick you up at this time. His name will be this. Da 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 da. Your flight. Da, da. It's all of that. Da 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 da. Then I'm on a plane and I'm gone. And then I wake up next day, get out the hotel, set up in the room, and then he shows up. Bam! There it is. Da da. And then we get to work. So that's what that is. And that may happen anywhere from 4 weeks to 2 months before you even hit the stage. Now, there's other artists that are training, twice a week, 3 times a week, or right before shows, leading up to shows, where being that we're in COVID, or even outside of COVID, that I'm doing this in hotel rooms or on tour buses while I'm out with artists as well. Yeah,
So,
preparing.
what does this new role? How's that for your work-life balance, your family your family balance compared to when you had those deals, you were still hustling? What's the difference now?
So it's still hustling. I mean, out of sight, out of mind. That's still happening, but it gives me more freedom. You know what I mean? And then I've established pretty much a name for myself, where I'm at a point where I can kind of pick and choose who I would like to work with, if they call, you know what I mean? And I'm grateful for any work, but there are some people, that's I'm a good fit for, and there's some that I'm not a good fit for. And I try and recognize that really, really quick.
Wow.
And if I'm not a good fit, I'll send them to somebody that I think is, or refer to.
I mean, as a therapist, we it's something that we generally would do. If a client comes through, you could tell if it's not working out, and then we'll refer to somebody else. Now, I work for the National Health Service, so I get paid regardless of who I treat. If and when I decide to go private, I always had this sense of you don't turn away money, even though ethically you need to part of your license is, look, if it's not going to work out, you just don't hold on to them. In your case, you're saying if it's not a good fit, you'd still turn them away. How would you know it's not? I mean, what would, and not to name names because of stuff, but what would you see that says, yeah, I know you need my help, but I don't think is it that you don't feel like you want? Okay, okay.
Yeah, sometimes it's work ethic. There's an artist out now that's really amazing that I had to turn away because I didn't have time. I didn't have time. And the way they needed me, I was out with 4, maybe 5 artists at that time. I was probably home 6 weeks that whole year. And the time that artist needed my help, I couldn't give it to them. Like we'll be right here doing this, and then they'll call. I'm like, I need you right now. And I'm like,
okay,
I can't do that right now because my word is everything to me. And if I've committed with you for this time, I have to honor that, or else you're gonna feel like I don't respect you. And I'm all about having a name. My name means more than anything. You know what I'm saying? And so at that point, I had to let them go to somebody that I thought was really dope.
Yeah.
And the artist is killing it right now, and I just celebrate them. I'm like, I made the right decision on behalf of that artist, and they're happy. And every time I see that artist, they're happy, And then sometimes they feel like, oh, you didn't want to work with me, And I'm like, that's clearly not what it was. I didn't have time for you. That's what it was. Yeah. And I'd rather give you to somebody that is going to love you as much as I do, and they do.
So just as we wrap up and stuff, I think the question that I have in my head is that I know you're out in Atlanta, but I thought there was this yearning to go back home to Orlando. I would have thought you'd had the space to be able to do that now, but what's held you back?
Hold up. You know what? You know what's crazy? I go home. I miss Orlando. There's a lot to do in Orlando, like entertaining family or friends that come into town. You can take them to Disney World. You can do all kinds of things. Two of my daughters are there.
Okay.
You know, my two of my sisters and my nephews, they're there. My family is in Orlando, with the exception of my brother and his family. They're in Miami. And I always go home and I'm like, I can move home. I'm ready. But something won't let me.
Hmm.
I just can't. I majority of my work is not in Atlanta. It's out. Very little of my work. Two of my older daughters are here as well, and I just can't go yet. I don't know what it is. I lost my mom this year, and she was a lot of the reason why I was coming home. She wasn't well over the last 10 years, and then she passed in June.
Oh,
And I would go down there twice a year, sometimes three times,
wow.
And and then because of COVID, I would go home next week because I got time. But I don't know what it is. I just can't do it. And then when I get down there, I'm ready to leave.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know what that is. I'm like, I'm antsy. I'm like, I got to get back home. But you are home. No, I got to get back to Atlanta. That's my home.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
As
it's,
heartbreaking as it is, that breaks my heart because I was always itching to get back home.
yeah.
It just hasn't happened.
Well, I mean, it's been really fascinating speaking to you, and I guess charting your journey and stuff. And I guess what people were asking about is probably this your second album that you recorded that hasn't come out.
Yeah.
But as you said, what happens over a passage of time, music changes, and you might look and think, it may not be worth releasing. But things are different now, where you could record your own stuff and actually release it and have more of a chance to release it anyway. Can we expect to hear your own stuff, even if on iTunes, Spotify, or stuff like that?
You know what's funny? I recorded this song. Um, I don't know if I could share it with you through this. Hmm. And I did this a couple years ago just to show my wife how much I love her. I mean, I show her that anyway, but
Okay,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? But just wrote a song to her. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, that's that library. Where are you? Yeah, there it is. Let me see if this plays. Come on. Oh, yeah. All right. I'm going to send this to you.
Okay.
Would you be able to get a file through Zoom if I sent it?
I doubt if I don't know. I mean, you do have my email address, but if
Let me see if I can send that in here. Chat.
okay, it could though. Yeah, you could upload a file.
Oh, okay. Upload a file. That. Desktop. Go. Computer. Yeah. Where's that? Desktop. Hmm. Let's see this. This is so new. There it is. Aha. If you'd like me to play it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll play it. And you tell me what you think.
Okay,
it's,
it is.
it's just a simple song. Yeah. Yeah. Nothing super, super fancy. I got to clean this desktop off. Desktop. Here. And you'll have that. How about that?
Yeah, the one you sent has come through. You
Okay.
radio.
Yeah, I'll play it for you on my end. And then you'll have that.
Okay.
All right, here we go. This is you dedicated to my wife.
crazy about you. I can't help it when you come around. It must be something in your smile, 'cause I'm happy as a little child. Don't ever leave, don't ever go. Girl, I'm gonna do what it takes to keep you here in my life. I'm all about you. And if you ever have died, remember I love you. You know it's true. Yeah, girl, remember when we made a vow to each other to love like no other. We felt deep in love, and that's when you had my heart. So don't ever leave. Remember, I love you. No one could ever take your place. I'm all about you. And if you ever have died, remember I love you. You know it's true. Someday we'll get all together, but still we'll be in my heart is only for you, for you, for you, for you.
Yeah.
So who did the who's on the the keys?
Me.
Oh, you. Do you know, with my A&R hat on, I saw Aaron Hall, I Miss You. And I saw this a cross between I Miss You and I can't remember the Casey and JoJo song that they came up with. That was their biggest hit.
All my life.
All My Life.
Yeah.
And I could see how this could be a wedding song.
Oh yeah.
Because you listen from the Aaron Hall's I Miss You. The song was okay, but it was the video that actually made the song, because people saw the video and then they said, "Well, what happened?" And then the song tuned in. And so I'm listening to this, and it also Prince, when Prince did sang what was that song he sang? The Prince had a ballad, a love song ballad that was um just had all these ladies, beautiful ladies. But it wasn't. It was but it was like a love song. And I saw this, and I thought, oh, okay, this could, if you just had a video, just you singing at a wedding and different people at different stages getting married. That's how the song would just go, and because it's a timeless track, it's not. I wouldn't say, oh, this is stuff you'd listen to in the 80s, but it can still be. You polish up a little bit, but it can still be done now. Was your thoughts, apart from showing your wife appreciation, maybe could be on the road all the time, was it just to keep it and like, that's it, or what was your plan?
You know what it was? I just thought about her sacrifice for everything. You know what I mean? With me coming back off the road with Justin, I was gonna go right back after the first tour, and Diesel could attest to that too. You know, I know like in my family, I was giving away so much money, helping out so many people off of that for the Justified tour. I had nothing to show for it.
Wow.
Nothing. I had a bag full of shoes and an outfit to match all the shoes in another bag. Yeah, stupid stuff I was doing. And then the second tour, which is where I met my wife on the second. You know, I met her on the I'm Loving It tour to promote the I'm Loving It campaign that Justin was doing. Where we went to Australia, met my wife, fell in love with her, we got married, and the rest is history. But for her to marry a guy and she have no kids that had 5 daughters.
Oh, wow.
5 daughters already.
Was this from your first girlfriend?
I had 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
so
okay.
my high school sweetheart, we had 3 kids together.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to Atlanta, my girlfriend that I said we was on the elevator.
With Aaron, yeah.
Yeah, we have 2 beautiful daughters together. And when I met my wife, we got married. And then we started the Future Sex Love Show tour. Justin hired us again. Had he not hired us, I wouldn't have, who knows where I would have been, you know, had he not rehired us on that tour. But I knew I had to do some things differently. You know what I'm saying? And my wife, she had business sense, paying bills, doing all of that stuff. And she knew that I have these kids and I got to take care of them, you know? And she came in and stood in the gap. And she supported me when I came off the Future Sex Love Show tour and we had some money. She was like, you're not going back to work at this gym or wait tables. You need to do music full time. You have something really special. And my wife, she went and got a job at UPS and was using that money and whatever money she was getting off of her place that she was renting in Australia, she used that to hold us down until I got this music thing off the ground. But she recognized that. And to have that kind of support from my wife, it said everything. So I just stood in front of the mic. I played, I don't know if you can hear this, but I just went from here. And that's how I started. Yeah. Then I started singing. Yeah. I didn't write anything down. I just sang the song. Yeah. How I felt about her. After a few tears, you know, while singing through it.
Yeah.
Just thinking how grateful I am to her. Yeah. That's how it went down.
Did you have any plans afterwards? Like, okay, you've recorded this stuff. What am I going to do with the track? Was it?
I put a little funny video to it, a YouTube video that I didn't try and promote or do anything fancy with. I just threw it out there and just put it out there. I don't even know how many hits it's got on YouTube because I'm not about that.
Yeah.
I just put it out there. Yeah, this is something I just put together for my wife. Now, had I did, who knows what it would do? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, if I find it, then I'll be sure when the interview is going out to give people a chance to see what you did with this. It would be good to link the two together.
Fantastic.
I think.
Yeah, it's on there, Rob. Let me see. You by Rob. I'm sure it's on there.
It should be on YouTube. If I just.
Yeah, it should be on there somewhere. Because these videos that are in here are not it. Yeah, there's a prime minister named Rob. I guess he's taking all the space now. That's not good.
We've got a Dominic Raab here in the UK. yeah, we've got a Dominic Raab who's our like Secretary of State. So
that's who it is, taking up all the space.
Yeah. He's in the Secretary of State for the UK. Yeah. But one of the questions I'd always ask my guests before we leave is that if you were stuck on an elevator and they said it's going to take a while before they get it going, but you can request a movie, what movie would you want to watch?
it was going to take a while. What movie would I watch? Man, that's a tough one because I collect a whole bunch of movies.
Yeah, you've got to pick one movie.
Man, The Matrix.
Okay.
Yeah, I
When
love The Matrix.
when I interviewed Dawn Robinson from In Vogue, that was her choice as well. She said she loved the whole Neo, the whole symbolism about the Matrix and everything.
Yeah, yes, yeah. It's funny. I like that too. I like how we're programmed into this system to believe one thing.
Yeah.
But it's funny when we dream and we go to sleep. I'm in a whole different world when I'm sleeping. Yeah, which is weird.
Yeah, and then I guess one of the things that people from us in the outside haven't been too aware is what the music industry. We have a very different perception about the industry. We assume all you guys who are making videos are making money and life is great, and then
No,
we don't understand about the. I think when I started on Instagram, I noticed that if I'm playing a song for more than 30 seconds, I'll get a notice saying this is the property of Sony. I'm like, but wait a minute, this guy owns the track, can't even play the whole hour of his track because he only owns at most 20% of stuff that he created. I didn't understand why Jaheim decided, you know what, I'm going to give up music because the stuff that Prince talked about many years ago, and even Michael towards in 2002 is happening now where I make stuff and I don't own it.
isn't
And
that crazy?
I was just telling I was telling a friend of mine that can you imagine if you went to Walgreens to go buy some butter, milk, and bread and flour. You go home and make a cake, and Walgreens says we own 80% of that because you bought it in our store. And I'm like, wait, but I paid for it and stuff. But I said no, we own that, and we tell you who you can give it to and how much you and I think as fans, we don't understand that. We don't understand the fact that your record labels have taken your creativity, made deals with these streaming services that you guys are even aware of, and they're just making billions from years and years, and people who passed away, they still own all this stuff, and we're not realizing, only the few, you've got the Taylor Swifts and the Drakes who sell, and they can really say that they're making money
Yeah.
and they have a very different bargaining power, but it's not that many. And
Yeah.
so yeah,
But you know what? I think like especially a lot of the new artists that I'm working with, I always constantly tell them, look, you got to do this. Don't be waiting on the record label to come in and do this for you. Yeah, everybody want to say they got a record deal, but
yeah,
make sure you do it at your own terms. You want that based
yeah,
off of the stuff I've gone through. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Even from the writing and the publishing. Think about that. I'll send them that Prince video and be like, you want to watch this. And
yeah,
don't just watch it, study it, and then research why you want to do that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Don't give up that publishing like that. That's the best thing you got going for you. And
yeah,
it happened to me, even with artists that I work with. I'm like, yo, I wrote on this record. I do have rights to promote this. I'm not selling it, and that I've run into a lot of issues like that with Instagram, which is crazy.
yeah. The final question then becomes if they're about to put the video out, play the music, the Matrix, but it'll take a few minutes. So what song would you? They say, let's play a song for you. What would you request to listen to?
See, that's a tough one. Man. Oh my gosh, that's a tough one. Say the question one more time.
Yeah. So as I said, they say, look, we're going to play Matrix for you. Billy's bringing it down. It'll take about 3 minutes or 4 minutes or 5 minutes. We'll play a song for you. What song would you request to listen to?
You know what? That's a tough one, man. I can tell you what artists I would listen to.
No, it's got to be a song because we all have our favorite tracks, and I've always wanted to find out and I don't want to just say what's your favorite song. So I use the scenario to find out, what song would you just think about? So this is my jam. I'll play this in high times or low times. This is my jam.
See, it's so crazy because it's hard for me to do that because I work with so many artists, and each artist got songs that are like, wow, you know what I mean? That I've been blessed to work with. So as far as catalogs that I could listen to,
But you're looking at one song across generations that you're saying, this is my jam. You know, everybody has, I've got my top three and I've got my number one that I like, no matter what, this is my jam.
All right. So if it's my number one, if it's really my number one, I would have to go to Michael Jackson's Billie Jean.
Okay. Okay.
I like Billie Jean. Well, you know what? See, that's tough, man. Because if I say Billie Jean, I can't say Billie Jean without saying Thriller. Because it was a soundtrack. You know what? I have to go with Thriller.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I would have to go with Thriller. What the music, the film, everything. You know, the mini movie, and how he transcended the game.
Yeah.
You know, music. Yeah, anything. Michael. He's my all-time favorite vocalist as well. Yeah.
Yeah. My number one song ever is "Lady in My Life."
Yeah. Oh wow.
That's it's such a powerful song that I don't listen to it anyhow. So, you know, maybe once every other 3 or 4 months I'll listen to it,
Yeah.
because it's like, you know, the most expensive stuff. You don't just drink it anyhow. You know, you really you savor it. So that song is so powerful. And I said, if he only did a video, if he only knew what that song was like. I mean, he came close to it when he did Butterflies off his Invincible album. That was as close to it as possible. But he was my all-time favorites. I wish I managed him, because musically I would have really taken his career in a different direction. Really focus on the types of tracks, you know, like the ballads. He was on another level with the ballads, but I don't think he realized
his vocal. I think he did. His vocal delivery and his vocal arranging in the studio said it all. But a lot of people don't catch that.
Yeah.
A lot of people catch the entertainer side of it.
Yeah,
They really sit down and listen to what he's doing. He was doing vocally.
Yeah.
He was out of control vocally. His dynamics, the way he approached the word, from his vibrato, speeding it up, slowing it down, you know, crying in record. I mean, he did a number on us.
Yeah. Heaven Can Wait is another one that I really like of Invincible. Just of ballads, the way he just interprets something, you know, it's just saying, if the angels come for me, now I'll tell them no. And he was really, it was believable, you know. He sings, but Butterflies isn't. Yeah, but as I said, that was it. But I mean, it was I could go on with Michael, so I have to hold myself and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's been really good. I mean, you know, one of the things about hearing stories like this is, you know, not conventional, because it wasn't what I expected. But I think there's a lot of things that you said in the background that I had to restrain myself as a therapist to try bring interpretations about your mom's discipline and what that played about. Because as much as that might interest people within my field, you know, most of the people who listen to this are R&B fans. We've got a lot of New Jack fans who follow the whole Basic Black and Diesel and are familiar with the work that you were doing. But we just have people who just love good music and hearing your story and your journey and stuff, and which has been great. And you know, and I think, like any story, having a redeeming happy ending is really, really great to hear. Because I know the business, it's been heartbreaking for me doing these interviews and hearing the heartbreaking stories about the industry. But hearing the fact that despite that, you found a strong woman to support you in the direction that you're in. You found a new manager who's really opened doors for you, and you're seeing things in a very different perspective. So that's really encouraging, because that's that sort of journey stuff that hopefully will inspire the people that, look, you just don't need to get into this stuff to be famous. Try and make sure you're happy and have the right kind of work-life balance at the end.
That's right.
Yeah. So I appreciate it. So over the Christmas holidays, I'll start editing and stuff and start releasing it bit by bit and stuff. But yeah, definitely really appreciate, you know, the timing and everything. It's been really fascinating speaking to you and stuff. And
thank you. This has been fun. It's been a joy. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully, it'd be great to just to find out. J Hart's been really good and hooking me up with a lot of different, so a lot of their friends and stuff. So, but it's great just to hear what's been going on and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you do start recording new stuff, let us know so we can start pushing it out for you as well.
All right. Thank you so much. I will. I'll keep you in mind. Thank you,
Okay.
Navi.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay, great.
Take care.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the Halftime Chat community. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. But most importantly, why don't you consider being a member? That's a way of supporting the channel, but also getting a lot of videos ahead of time, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and some exclusive content that doesn't get shared. But anyway, thanks for watching and thanks for being part of Halftime Chat.